Throughout its 5,000-year history, the Indian subcontinent has suffered numerous invasions. The last was by the British. And among their greatest legacies were the railways which fanned out to the very edges of their Indian empire. But they quit India in 1947 and hurriedly partitioned the subcontinent. Now many of the old railway routes crossed the new frontiers and were terminated. A few survived. They are India's frontier railways. In 1927, a British civil servant drew a line on a map to define the border between their British Indian Empire and the Kingdom of Nepal. Today, that line is still marked by a chain of boundary stones and pillars. For the locals, it's a border that is almost invisible, and their national identity is just a blip of administrative history.
तो इंडिया के चाहिए नेपाल के? इंडिया के चाहिए क्या नाम? नहीं सर नेपाल के चाहिए? नेपाल नानी का अच्छी नानी का सर इंडिया में चाहिए.
The British also made another line, a railway line, to carry wood from Nepal to India. The forests were stripped years ago, yet the railway is still running. It travels just 20 miles from Janakpur in Nepal to Janakpur in India and crosses the flimsy border twice a day. This is a border with no gates, no barbed wire, no fences, no guards, or even immigration checks. So there's nothing to break the journey of this 80-year-old service. Instead, its biggest problem is whether the train will run at all. The Nepal Railway Company is broke, and its last working train keeps breaking down. It's no surprise that there are regular minor derailments. They're mostly due to overloading. But each train cancellation is a disaster, both for the passengers and the workers. For them all, this borderline train is literally a lifeline. This is the story of the last train in Nepal.
आठ दिन बंद हुआ, आज लगा के 8 दिन हुआ था.
दो दिन गाड़ी चले, 4 दिन बंद है. 4 दिन गाड़ी चले तो 1 महीना बंद.
The line was once owned by the King of Nepal, a country never colonized by the British. Once 3 narrow-gauge trains a day made the 20-mile run to India. But now there's just one service, and the only engine has broken down. So at the Nepal end of the line, at Janakpur station, they haven't seen a train for 8 days.
गाड़ी तो आपको आया नहीं है तो कैसे जाएगा?
पैसा गरीब आदमी है.
पैसा नहीं है, गरीब आदमी है, आपको मांगता के खाते हैं.
One of the regulars waiting for the train to India is Regina. She uses the train to smuggle in cheap clothes and household goods from India. She's a courier for shopkeepers in Janakpur, earning a few rupees commission from every run. Without the train, her commission has dried up, and she has 2 teenage sons and a mother to feed.
दूटा बाल बच्चा के पोसी चली कमा का से होने आब घरिए गिरे हैं एक दिन के कमाई में कई दिन किए हैं 30 रुपया ले आ जो घरे भरा लगी आ ज्यादा बचेबे त हमरा माथा नहीं घुस कहिए
With every new breakdown, the fear of final closure hangs more heavily over the line and its 150 employees and their families. Arman is a ticket checker for Nepal Railways. A generation ago, his was a prize job with a steady income and a pension. But like the rest of his colleagues, Arman hasn't been paid for some time.
आई 4 महीना भ गेलै हमरा सबके तलब नहीं देले छै से कहू केना के मन के चलू ना 4 गो बाल बच्चा छै बीवी छै मम्मी छै पापा छै हमरा लगे जी छै हम ही ओकरा घर चलाबै छी 2 रुपया लागे दै छी त ओ खाइए समस्या उ 4 आदमी के लग
Each day the train doesn't run, Arman has to face the ever more frustrated and angry passengers.
खाए अभी ट्रेन जे है से ट्रेन चले चले ट्रेन के सब बंद कर ई ट्रेन के हाल भेले से केका चलते नेता के चलते कि मंत्री के चलते कि रेलवे के स्टाफ के चलते हमर हिसाब से ई सब भेलो सब खौआ पोकुआ के चलते पहले तो तू जनता छ तू आक्रोशित छ तू पीड़ित छ तो तू कुछो बैठ सके छ बट नहीं पहले तो तू पीड़ित आदमी देखो पूरा हाकिम की बात की जानकारी है नहीं से बात नहीं कि ई रेलवे के हाल ई है हमर बोगी के हाल ई है हमर ट्रेन के हाल ई है हाकिम पूरा चीज जानी है तो ये कोनो ऐसा नहीं है मतलब ये ने बाप है ने माँ है कोई नहीं है
Kathmandu is the head office of the government-run railway department. But it seems they're looking to the future, not the past. Theirs is a vision with 5 new lines to India, and passing through the Himalayas, a new borderline to China.
Being a sandwich country between big neighbors China and India, we'd like to facilitate their trade as well. So we are dreaming of connecting through Nepal, India and China.
These plans rely on foreign investment, and that's all still under discussion. At the moment, the Janakpur line is simply not on the agenda.
They don't have any earnings, it's very little, not even enough to pay the fuel price, the diesel. The earning is not even enough to pay the diesel price, and so they cannot pay the salary, they cannot repair the engine.
For this little line, the cupboard is bare.
The train has halted and you have to repair the engine, repair the track and so on. But I don't have any budget for those things.
Short of a miracle, the historic Janakpur line is doomed. Back in Janakpur, effectively abandoned by their management, the railway workers discuss their options. The only chance of getting any wages is for the train to run, to sell tickets and generate some cash for the railway and for themselves. And that means mending the engine and getting it back on the line. Because without the engine, there's no train. No train, no job. A vote settles it. They'll work unpaid to keep the line alive. The engine is dispatched to the Kajuri repair yard and workshops, 15 miles away towards the Indian end of the line. Vilash Mandal, ace mechanic, is Nepal Railway's go-to man in an engine crisis.
उसको क्या है मतलब ट्रांसमिशन पाइप है ना वो मतलब ठंडा होता है वो ट्रांसमिशन वाइल इसको पाइप फूट गया इसीलिए खोल रहे हैं हम उसको
3 rusting engines way beyond repair are his emergency stores. 20 years ago, the Indian government presented 4 diesel engines to Nepal to replace their aging steam engines. And here in Kadjuri, right beside the maintenance shed, they've been unceremoniously dumped. However, amongst their rusting carcasses, their industrial heritage is still visible. Vasudev Mandal was born 80 years ago, and he's the last surviving steam loco driver on the Janakpur line.
150 आदमी खोती छे हम सब वो तो सब तो कुछ नहीं है सब खत्म है सब लाइन इंजन सरकार हर चीज फिट है
संचालन पे गाड़ी देना है गाड़ी चलाना है
News of the resumption of the service soon reaches Janakpur. Regina starts informing the local shopkeepers and taking orders. It took Vilash and his team just 2 days to resuscitate Nepal Railway's last surviving engine, ZDM 524. The engine is bound for Janakpur. With a little luck, the train will be able to hook up with its coaches and wagons and proudly announce that the long-delayed 7 down 3:30 afternoon service to Janakpur in India is running again. With the good news, a dormant Janakpur station springs back to life. Medicine sellers, magicians, chai-wallahs, tourists, and even train spotters from China. They jostle for space with passengers and goods. Not everybody, however, believes the train will run. But when the ticket window opens, even the skeptics are convinced. The train is definitely running. A standard ticket from Janakpur to Janakpur costs 29 Nepali rupees, about 20 pence. Bicycles and small animals cost another 10 rupees each way. These modest fares are the railway's sole source of income to buy diesel and pay wages. Fare dodging is rife, and Aman has the hapless task of persuading everyone to buy a ticket.
टिकट नहीं रहेगा सामान गाड़ी खुले में उतार के फेंक देंगे हम नहीं चेक कर लाएंगे सब पूछ जाओ सब टिकट लेकर बनाओ मैं भगवान जाके और बाप के ट्रेन है फ्री के ट्रेन ही है पानी पर चली है
A ticket is no guarantee of a seat on Nepal Railways. There are no reservations on the 4 or 5 official coaches or goods wagons. So with 1,000 passengers and their luggage, space is at a premium. As a regular, Regina confidently takes her usual place on the open goods wagon. She'll share the 20-mile journey with commuters, migrants, other smugglers, animals, cycles, even trees. Just about anything and anyone travels on this train.
हमारा ट्रेन में नहीं डर लगी जाए आब में एकोटा नहीं पुरुष है तैसा किया महिला छिकल थी देखियो कल के हाथी चलल बाजार आ कुत्ता लगल हजार हैं जब इतने हम वही ट्रेन में चललिए तो हमरा डर रहते.
After 12 days of waiting, the 3:30 down service to Janakpur in India finally sets off, bang on time.
छूट गेल की कथी लगे ना छूट गेल
Travelling at a top speed of 10 miles an hour, it should complete the 20-mile journey to the border in about 3 hours. But with a capacity load and 7 stops along the way, it's hardly ever on time. But none of its passengers care about punctuality, so long as the train is running. The train passes through one of the poorest regions of one of the poorest countries of the world. Working in the fields provides at best a barely subsistence living.
नेपाल में देखबे कर छी कोनो कारखाना नहीं कोनो कुछो नहीं एकोटा कारखाना है से कोनो में काम क खा हां ये खेती बाड़ी त केकरो जन में जाओ वो लागा 10 दिन में एक दिन समय पर त कथि खेबे.
For a single mother of 2, the train at least offers some financial security.
एक 2 महीना के बच्चा तही दिन से हम काम करै छी. अखनो 16 बरस के बच्चा 12 साल में शादी भेल 13 साल में लड़का भेल.
Deserted by her husband at the age of 19, Regina has brought up her 2 sons, Raymat and Saymat, on her smuggling income. Right from the time they were young, the boys have been working with their mother. Education was not an option for them.
हम जब जे 5 साल के भेलिए ये सब काम धंधा करे लगलिए. हम पापा 2 शादी कर लेलके तो वही के चलते पढ़ल लिखल नहीं छी मजदूरी रही ते के लिए नहीं पढ़ली वैसा आमदनी नहीं रहे वही के चलते नहीं पढ़ली के.
उमर ध्यान लेडी छी त कथि कोनो काम क खाइ सकै छी हैं पेट चलते चोरी करे कोनो काम क खाइ. आई दुनिया में जलम नहीं छी कमाइ छी खाइ छी काल नहीं आई मरबे करब.
In Nepal, Regina and women like her are not regarded as smugglers. They provide an essential service. Locals call them blakinia, black marketeers. Smuggler is a term they reserve for those who bring in contraband, like drugs and weapons.
गैर कानून चली तो ओकरा जेल जखन ते कपड़ा लगे बिस्कुट लगे पटिया लगे तो साधारण बात. एकटा कनी मनी भंसार लगी सरकार के चोर छी नहीं तो बड़का चोर डाकू नहीं छी 2000 4000 5000 के लगी नहीं भंसार करे छी ओतबा के कथि भंसार में होते फायदा.
In Janakpur, after a successful send-off to the train, Aman is happy that they've kept the railway going, at least for the time being. But his financial worries haven't gone away. He has to depend on his father, a jobbing tailor, or on credit, taking out expensive loans from local moneylenders.
4 महीना से जे दुकान वाला से कर्जा ले लीजिए चावल दाल वो सब आगे दिमाग पे आगे बैठे हमरा पैसा दे तो उसके तलब नहीं जल्दी से आके कही.
His eldest son, Sahil, is old enough to go to school. But school costs money that Aman hasn't got. At dusk, without ceremony, the train finally crossed the border into India, arriving only 2 hours late. For some, it's the start of a new life as they set off to find work in India and beyond. For others, there's business to make, goods to shift, commerce to engage in. Regina slips off into the night and disappears into the crowd of this border town. She has a list of goods to buy here and bring them back to Nepal, duty-free, if she's lucky. Just a few years ago, Janakpur in India was a sleepy little town in the eastern province of Bihar, on the border of Nepal. But today, Janakpur has become an important Indian railway junction, complete with an upgrade to broad gauge. Now many Indian express trains start from here, connecting this small town of 30,000 people to most major Indian cities. These express trains mostly carry workers from this region to other parts of India in search of work. Regina is back from her secretive shopping expedition. What she needs now is a place to sleep. The morning train to Janakpur is convenient, empty for once and free. A couple of sacks of goods serve as a mattress, and a mosquito net completes her makeshift bed.
एगो ने कहावत में कहे रंडी कतबो पैसा कमा के तो उधन नहीं रहे आ मेहनत क कमाही तो उधन रहे हम फाटले पहनने छी तैसा कि हम अपना ला छी हम अपन कमाइल पहनने छी कोई जिसका वाला नहीं कब आएंगे कब आएंगे
Today, on this Nepali platform, as well as Regina, there's an exhausted group of pilgrims from Rajasthan. They've been traveling on Indian trains for the last 24 hours. Having covered over 1,200 miles, their last 20 will be on Nepal railways to Janakpur, the birthplace of the goddess Sita.
कितनी परेशानी है इसको मानते हैं प्रथम श्रेणी ये प्रथम श्रेणी की ओर से की ट्रेन हमारे साथ में 200-250 लोग हैं यहाँ जनकपुर में श्री रामचरितमानस की कथा कही जाएगी 9 दिन तक उसमें सब लोग हैं क्योंकि रात में हम 2 बजे यहाँ पर आ गए थे कोई साधन नहीं मिले जाने के लिए हम लोग ट्रेन पर पड़े रहे मच्छर खाते रहे।
The subcontinent of India dates back to a time when the land was defined by its pilgrim routes and mythological stories, not by territories divided by kings and governments. Travelling the pilgrim routes was full of difficulties then, and it still is. But for devotees, it's both a demonstration of their faith and a celebration of their gods. As for Regina, her faith is pinned on this spirited but vulnerable little train, which has given her hope and financial survival.
ट्रेन तो हमरा सब ले विश्वकर्मा बाबा भगवान छथिन। आ देखियो ट्रेन चले तो हमरा सन नहीं, हमरा नहीं, हमरा सन बहुते गोरा के सोचे।
The train may be a god to Regina, but it's a god with earthly needs, like money for diesel. During the 10-day festival of Dashain, the train usually runs fully loaded. The season should generate a welcome boost for ticket revenues. And travelling ticket inspector Rajeshwar will do whatever it takes to keep the railway running and collect as many rupees as possible in fares. Janakpur station has been patiently awaiting the arrival of the train, and so has Regina's youngest son, Saimat. They have a well-oiled routine. Regina will unload, and then Saimat will make off with the goods as quickly as he can. There might be police waiting at Janakpur station, but Regina is ready. Young Saimat successfully makes off with one enormous bulging sack of clothes. Now Regina chooses her moment, while the officials struggle to deal with the crowds of pilgrims, passengers, and all their goods. Then, in the blink of an eye, she's gone. Aman is as broke as the railway, so he's in no mood to be charitable towards ticketless passengers. Nepal is the birthplace of the Buddha. But for Hindus, it's also the land of the gods. In Hindu mythology, Sita, Lord Rama's wife, is said to have been born right here in Janakpur. The story of Rama and Sita may be 5,000 years old, yet the gleaming temple of Sita was just empty ground until 100 years ago. For Hindus, it's not the physical building or its location which matters. It's the aura of holiness that makes the mythology come alive for these pilgrims. The success of the festival of Dashain is thanks to the train starting again. It's brought a steady stream of pilgrims and their money to the town. Today at the temple, they're listening intently to the story of Lord Rama's rescuing of Sita from her evil abductors. But for Regina and her sons, the devotions and celebrations can wait. The festive season means extra demand for Regina's services. She's now delivering daily consignments of clothes for the shopkeepers in Janakpur. With a steady turnover, she can feed the family for a month and even pay off a few small debts. Even after 2 weeks of uninterrupted service, the railway hasn't yet earned enough to pay the workers a salary. Arman's situation is becoming critical, and the wolves are at the door. With mounting debts and no guarantee of a job, there are few options in Nepal for people like Arman, unless he joins his peers, migrating overseas for work. For the religious, Janakpur may be a town for spiritual salvation, but for the locals, it also holds the promise of a better life. These days, they see themselves less as pilgrims and more as economic migrants. Janakpur town supports a network of immigration services to serve the ever-increasing demand for jobs abroad. Industry and manpower agencies, travel agents, remittance companies. If you're prepared to travel, the Janakpur network will find you a job anywhere in the world for a price. Packages, goods and passengers are already making their way to Janakpur station, displaying addresses of distant lands. They tell an increasingly common story of Nepal, a massive population exodus.
कमाई के लागि में कुछ अपना उन्नति करे के लागि में अय बैठला से के खिएते.
Once Nepal exported agricultural produce, timber, tea, herbs. But today its biggest export is its people. As the train departs, its carriages are filled with local gossip and travellers' tales of life stories from home and abroad.
कतार से लिए गांव का एक घर का 2-3 आदमी पूरा घर में एक घर में 2-3 आदमी वो पूरा कतार में.
Nepal is fast becoming a country of migrants. More than half of its households have at least one member of the family working abroad.
हमारा गांव में तो 10 गो छाड़ा भेटबे नहीं करती माने 200 छाड़ा नहीं भेटती 50 गो बुरबा में होते बना सब में.
Nearly a quarter of Nepal's income is made up by its citizens sending money home.
अब बाहर हम सब जेबो कर छी नै तो इंटरेस्ट पर पाइ लिए पड़े है बुझलिए हमार गरीब आदमी कतो सब पाइ लेबे तो इंटरेस्ट पे 5 रुपया इंटरेस्ट पर लिए पड़े पाइ.
कम भीड़ बुझाया विदेश में आज जाया विदेश में से आँख से आंसू बया की करत 1 लाख रुपया खर्चा ये सब कर जाइए आया न कोनो आमदनी नहीं है ओयन सब भाग कर जाइला दे.
After 2 weeks of uninterrupted service, the train to Janakpur has derailed. Happily, no one has got hurt.
नेपाल के गाड़ी गिर जाता है सर, इसीलिए.
But it's no cause for alarm for the regulars. They're all too used to it and willingly lend their support when there's a problem. But they don't take kindly to any criticism of their precious train. As usual, rather than wait for help to arrive, Nepal Railways relies on its greatest resource, the manpower of its passengers.
क्या हुआ? अब आदमी लोग सब हाथ पर धर के उठा दिया.
उठा दिया.
हाँ, उठ गया गाड़ी.
पैसेंजर के मदद से ठेल ठाल के आगाड़ी पछाड़ी करके केनो अथी कर ले.
हम सब जा रहल छी, अब कथि करबै, काम करबो पड़त.
Luckily, yesterday's derailment didn't cause any major disruption. It just bent a few rails. Jaleshwar is head of the track repair gang. The derailment site is 10 miles from his home, and like the rest of the railway staff, he's prepared to do his duty wherever and whenever he's needed.
चिट्ठिए एहन भेटल छै कि अहाँ हम घर हो रहली छुट्टियों में, आज जेनाइ छुट्टी छलिए, आज तो हमरा जेबाके नहीं छलै कतौ नहीं, आज हम घरे बैठतिए, लेकिन तैयो की करू, भूखले जाय पड़ल साइकिल से.
Reclaimed sleepers are already being hurried to the site on the emergency motor trolley so that the bent track can be repaired in time for the morning train.
अब ट्रेन चला दै छी, लोकल ट्रेन छै, एठाम के आदमी सब लोकल सब छै, सब ओइ पर जोर देलक, कहलक.
It takes Jaleshwar and his gang just under an hour to repair the old track, so there's no delay to the schedule. But back at home in his village, Jaleshwar is under a lot of pressure, not just from the railway, but from his family too. Now his younger son wants him to pay his travel expenses so he can work abroad, just like his brother.
जेठका बचवा 12 क्लास पढ़लक, ओहो कहलक हम विदेश जाए, वो चल गेल विदेश. अब रह गेल सूर्य नारायण, ताऊ कहिए हम नहीं पढ़बे, हम विदेश जाए.
Jaleshwar had to take a loan to finance his eldest son's trip to Qatar. 6 years later, he's only just finished repaying it. And now that his younger son, Surya, also wants to work abroad, he has just no idea where the money will come from.
गांव पर मन नहीं लगे, बढ़िया नहीं लगे है कि वही सब विधि. गरीब छी हम सब, कथी करो, मजबूरी विदेश जा चाहे छी. यहाँ के मतलब अत इंसान कतनो कमा ले तो हमरा सबके पैसा नहीं बची. अब विदेश जाकर कर्जा ला कर गेल है, माथावर कम से कम अथी रहे.
Today, Surya has come to Janakpur for a vital health checkup. He has to have a medical certificate before he can travel abroad.
मेडिकल करवा के कतार जाके.
Qatar will be hosting the Football World Cup in 2022. They're building to a deadline, so the demand for cheap labour is high.
कतार जाके ये अब सोचने पड़ल छै, केना रहबे ओतऽ, केना खतबे, कोन काम देते, वही के सोच में अब. बल्हो में मोड़ले कोई बिल्डिंग गिर पड़ले देह पाठी भ गेले कि अथी रबड़ हुआ मोटका उहे गिर पड़ले माथा पर तो मर गेले खौजिए में मोड़ले दू कोई
At Janakpur station, Regina's elder son, Raymat, is waiting for his mother to arrive on the train. He used to make these train runs himself, but they've been cracking down on smugglers recently, so his mother wants to protect him from arrest.
हमू जाय छली अभी जेना उये है ना तभी प्रशासन सब है ना से मरद के पकड़ाव बेसी करे है मारपीट करे ओई के चलते हम नहीं जाय छी.
And today is no ordinary day for the morning service from Janakpur. There's going to be a big surprise raid involving customs, police and ticket inspectors. They're out to catch smugglers and fare dodgers. And it's an opportunity to claw back some money from ticketless travellers and to confiscate some contraband. As usual, Regina is aboard the train with sacks of imported goods, and both her sons are waiting to unload at Janakpur. Today, Regina and her sons have to shift a bigger consignment than usual, and she gets caught. But Regina doesn't let the first seizure deter her. She makes a run with her second consignment. But she's caught again. Aman is also in the front line, collecting money from fare dodgers.
हम लोग 6-7 साल से एको बार कहाँ टिकट दिया.
Age is no excuse for fare dodging, and not paying for your ticket or for your cycle is an offence.
Hello, Papa. Janakpur में पकड़ा गेलिए. साइकिल के बिल नहीं चलते लगी.
The youngest dodger gives up his shopping money as a fine and then scuttles off to face his family. As the station quietens down, Regina sees an opportunity to liberate one of her impounded bags. Three of her bags are still with the customs, and she tries to plead with the guards, but to no avail. It's been an expensive day for Regina and her sons.
मात्र 2-3 गोरा के पकड़ लिया बेसी माल तो छोड़ दे आ छोटका के जाए दुख दिया
But it's been a good day for the railways. As Aman and his friends watch their accountant add up their takings from ticket sales, freight charges and all the other fines, there should be enough cash for some wages.
ऊपर से पैसा नहीं आया सर हम लोग जो ही कमाए हैं ना उसी में से खा रहे हैं
And it's very good news. They've collected enough to pay themselves some wages. Accountant Sitasharam agrees to pay 1 month's salary to everyone. Tomorrow. The news couldn't have come at a better time. Now they can enjoy the festivities. Tomorrow is the auspicious 8th day of the Dashain festival, when Hindus sacrifice a goat to the goddess Durga for good luck. Even with the expectation of 1 month's wages, Aman can't even think about sending his son to school. But he's happy to buy some books for him to keep the dream alive.
प्यार वाला तो कौन प्यार वाला गीत कौन आप ओकरा से सुनी भी तब ना
तेरी मेरी प्रेम कहानी मुझसे जो में बनाया
It's payday, the first in many months. And at Janakpur station, Aman is in high spirits while he waits for the staff from other stations down the line. At Kajuri station, there are many goats waiting to board. They're all to be sacrificed at the temple in Janakpur, a ritual thousands of years old. For many Hindus, animal sacrifice is central to their religious practice. Today the sacrifice will be made to appease the Mother Goddess for their bad deeds of the last year. As the devout escort their offerings to the temple on Janakpur station, it's payday at last. A month's salary for Vilash and Aman is just £60, which is less than £2 a day. And outside, others are waiting. Creditors, shopkeepers and booze sellers are all waiting to stake their claim on the money. Now Vilash and his co-workers are able to pay back some of their debts. On the loco in Janakpur, they've also sacrificed a goat, not just to the goddess, but to the diesel engine ZDM 524. Although most of his salary went to paying off debts, Aman would not let that stop him from having some fun. He and his wife make a visit to the local fair for some cheap thrills and something for the kids. Although Regina is a Muslim, she, like many other poor people, can ill afford to believe in sectarian divisions. Regina wants to thank the Hindu goddess for her blessings. She's survived, and so have her children.
जाने हम मुसलमान हम मान दली समान अहाँ दसे के से हे दे पितर हमरा ई भल क दिया हमहु जाके प्रसादी चढ़ाई आबै छी कोई खसिए मानने रहै छी अहाँ के देवता हमर देवता दू न मन दू.
As the festivities come to an end in Janakpur, the railway and the town are grateful for this boost to their income. But down the line at Janakpur station on the Indian border, as they dispatch the morning service to Nepal, a letter arrives. It's come from head office, and it's addressed to the station master.
विषय जनर स्टेशन भवन सम्बन्धमा उपयुक्त विषय रेल विभाग काठमाडौँको पस 2017 प्रस्तावित स्टेशन निर्माण गर्न हाल स्टेशन रहेको भवन भत्काउनु पर्ने भएकोले एयरकन.
Now it's official. The government's planned expansion is going ahead. The Janakpur line will be closed. It will be upgraded and rebuilt by the Indian government. And if things go well, in 3 years' time, it will reopen as Nepal's first broad-gauge train service to Janakpur and beyond. It may be good news for Nepal, but for the 150 staff of this narrow-gauge train, it's the news they've been dreading. But there's a more immediate problem.
जयनगर में रेल पटरी छे उखड़ी है वो डोजर टप छे ना वो एस्कावेटर तो वैसा है रेल उखड़ियल है 3टा रेल तो वो रेल के जे है से सरियाव पड़ते कर्मचारी सब आप बंद भयते तो हम सब बैठ जाए.
Despite the letter, the railway workers are determined to run their little train for as long as they can and to earn whatever they can. For now, Jaleshwar is managing to keep the train in service, but his son Surya is more realistic. He planned to go abroad, but with his father's job disappearing, he knows that getting a loan for the air ticket and visa will be impossible.
हम अपने मेहनत करके विदेश जा चाहे छी कैलाकि यार पैसा नहीं लिए पड़ते घर से लिखू नहीं पड़ते क्या करो सर वही द्वारा.
So Surya starts doing what others do in this border area. He becomes a small-time black marketeer, smuggling household goods across the border. In Janakpur, Aman is busy collecting tickets. He's not ready to quit until he's forced to. But he's faced with a difficult decision about his son's future. His dream of sending him to a good school means getting further into debt, and he just cannot afford it. His wife is still teaching her kids at home, hoping that someday they'll realize her dreams.
साइली पहले मोली साहब बनाए सनियों पढ़ते पहले हम बेटी कहती बनी थी नर्स बनी थी पढ़ाई लिखा के डॉक्टरी पढ़ाई पढ़ी थी डॉक्टर बनी डॉक्टर क्या बनी दवाई दिए ला दवाई
दुनिया में जिए के कोनो व्यक्ति के एगो मंजिल एगो सीढ़ी नहीं है तब तो कोई दुनिया में नहीं जी सके कहियो लाइफ में नहीं. तो हमर गरीब मतलब कि हमर दुख के आशा है कि हम ई चीज से सामना करते 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 जेबे जब तक जिंदगी तब तक अहाँ के आशा राखी पड़त नहीं आशा रखबे तो अहाँ नहीं जी सकै छी दुनिया में
Regina is not ready to give up on the train either. As long as it keeps running, she can earn money. And for people like her, this train has been a savior.
जे देश में जे गाड़ी चलते वह नहीं खा अब बड़ी लाइन कहे छी देबे तब बड़ी लाइन बना देबे तब ने हम बुझबे बना देंगे आने बनेने छी तो सपने धन बुझे छी ने आ देत के नहीं देत ये अभी नहीं खोज लिया तो आशा लगे छी कखन चली तो हमरा ये प्यारा नहीं दे
Her eldest son Raymat is ready to take any job to help maintain the family. He's managed to get some poorly paid labouring work on a building site in Janakpur.
हमू कमाई छी घर आश्रम चलबे छी माय के सहयोग करै छी अब ओइ के बाद हमू विदेश चल जाबे चाहे कतो काम करे लगबे त माय के अब घरे बैठा के खियावे
Regina is surprised to hear that her eldest son has got a job. And like any mother, she's both proud and touched.
हमरा नहीं हो के लेबर में चल जाए बच्चा काम उजे हमर माय बिजनेस क खाई हवे अखनो के समय हम बहुते खुशी छी तै समय में हमरा बुझाय कखनो हमर मत छूटे है अल्लाह से हम दुख पड़ते नीच नीचा में धरती रहनी ऊपर आसमान रहे कोई नहीं रहे सा अब बच्चा पला गेलू कहे महीने काल हम कमा के खेबू छोटका बेटा के हमरा होटले में रह दे तो क्या कहनी छे ता हमरा मन खुशी रहे बहुते नीक रहे
The railwaymen and their passengers managed to keep the train running for another few months. But despite their efforts, the Janakpur to Jayanagar line finally closed in 2014. No decision has been made on the fate of its former employees, and the new broad gauge line is scheduled to open in 2017.